Thank you so much, Dr. D. Richard, for this prelude to our discourse. I'd just like to introduce to you once again, the co-discutants of the day. I'm not sure if it's a discussion or it's a debate, but it incorporates all of that. So we do have Tam for Mindy Manjong. You'll be hearing him very soon. You have Dr. Budi. You have we also have Tam for me and get Edison Shea, and some other speakers. You'll be discovering them as time unrolls. At this time, I will switch on to appreciate the main moderator of the conference, who is Mangiri, Dr. Yengi Lillian, and over to you, Mangiri.
Very well. Mayonse tata wisi, ayonse mama we, ayonse mayu, ma winter, ayonse we wish you mina, your title holder, mayonse Reverend Koyo ikuya, amboy coordinator mama wikuya, obanisi ni forum tene, mayonse time for me, EK, ayonse all the panelists, time for Mindy Manjong. Dr. Raymond and the Dr. Raymond Budi. Me yong sing we washi lon fi big it lives and bume nkadu ba mi fi shiga me nam ku bisa tbara. Me kwani siki lotore ayushi takila balani iri whether any discussion or panelists or advocacy kekaleka but ntinana me kwani larfa libiba very easy. Njo si ave menanti na ye ni. I'm a Reverend Koyo Abala, Siaba Yetni Sivisi Mawi, Mamawi. Told la ni sine amboy, Yabla Ambo Shune. Then they show you traditional Okibano you on the other side of the panel. Bentini Mekwani adversary see you ka see Yetni, I'm a doctor in the after the prelude. More you see you baked in our culture, you baked in our society. They say in funny culture, so society is wiki. Iki just teme mo sarka kabani bua din tomza siyeni akadisi kumsumu bui si anjeke within the context of this culture tesi go do kuntomzele me kwa ani before them ka do kuntomzele ta yon la yumo abani kadi ba ke teme te shane again ba ke take shane mangai maya Njirong e yumi mercy minane njo am ke iye Tesi ba min la ha mo si dina ne ambama wikuda USA convention ma Virginia in 2023 si andon tomze si amveni si maya eka vote shila si alani Mbum sambaba fe si ka mama we ambo yuna si am shitwo we ba fe ti biom te abumbo aba mi level zero la ni tuni nimsi tesi bo continue so me yonse mangai si amoy sem merini maya wo mtulwa perform adi wa menza Reverend Koyo Abala o la means go one boy kusisi wo mami ngomel ngmo yuka mangai avam si mer si abamenanti nane so ewa a learning opportunity tesi usisi wo we This uses bio on the other side. Okay, la. First back obi na smubu mona bombani bani me kwa nisi minaba accounta use mama wola ka. Si mina uses we some offer some explanations. Tesi yeni si video contoms and jekele. Wulimina bo will follow will hobby nibi by the end. Si even the move action items more. Okay, any proceedings say keke. Chini si video contoms. Tesi tusa visit kesi tusa na visit tata kesi tusa ni any organization she need to interest mumbume njibi amti tesi shela ni yusi visit mama wola na kadisi gikele me kwa ni tini baba ni si yusi magosi si wowe me kwa ni mu programs will actually you ne will be far then maybe the in terms amaya me ngarume si atuno guidance we could do ambo you when you zinti la then after that si we first about come shake ame program ni weshi be minza andale iba me fe maya la misiwe te Dr. Budze la tesi put back to maya kuya then si de meta for minga Edison so me pa ni for now tesi kul la ni te maya eminga rum vele bongbong titi yule ni wowi
Mama be on mute ba. On mute. Mama me to that on mute sayate on mute ka uri weka.
Okay. All right. You mesenya.
No, Mama.
Okay. Me fa chani tombi ni tamu nyu me buambo gisi atati na tuntinena. Afari yon shimago ni tata Njirong shambo mesimo ndio me yubo hadi yesi. Afari yon shimago ni Dr. Lilian Mangiri. Afa biwewe the panelists wewe me chani wowi. Ala ni bitaf sisi. Me yumina atuma ya me Mbum and lane gender equality shaki lana ikilokuba amufi mosi especially amfi akigar wilganna akuyene gender equality you balance jobi wedi fie yene akugan maya the same ambo agan kuna ka chusimi kabara bana bigan maya kuchusi ali kabarana baraki chusi wa ni maya na anku shine the phone ka bedambo akigar the same and then agarwa maya ka kinna timbo na ke chuchu lo ba fi she fergana na chasiwe ban maya bi basi na bo ni mluwa yo bi kiriyen weka me kwa ne eme point on bi jura turmina je me mu kwa shi yune wuri kituri support ka maya bi to support ka me ka la support mina bane bi kwa shi bi kwa shi Gala support me na big kwashabo moral support. Me moral support na. We go ba fi mo aye ko believe aye elite, aye leaders me church. Aye elders am what I do me talk and friendship ninku ke de owi. Ben maya kichu we mo sira mbinye go gu chamga maya fa me wambo na we mbinye ne sama ya chipta mu chanika. So we feel me munje moral support yen maya you lacking see maya be tun chipka ayu give maya mo aya si ni do fa anje ya do fa do yang si kwi ambo maya mo am yang sa at a very young age she would kushiwa e bon kana then siki do me support mo ambo material support na akuyene ikiba fi mo ya kutusi ku gift ku buje je ne visita churches avenue ji bangu fane visita but mbumo osiri me item hane kulamo osiri mi fune aba maya ne anka kwa yo angu yona amu yu tu sin kuna ka urbi fawo musha jo awo maya agin tuka so willo chwa ku kwa chini bane be isi wuri wati do mi financial support akuyene aki bi malo chuni mbi abone me na kukumba tu sin amku ne tem tubo chuyene amba giwa simo kucho mu 10 francs bo tu se fon le wala ka fa wa fa chani maya ene bo tu fon min to yeni simo mba ko ba wore andi ba wora miye yo ka ba wori ko yu ne aba tu sin ba ne visita so mo na sibi bo sika o di dogo kirfi ambo crisis yu meto ona ayene mu displace ku fa do si ado achu of town wa ya bugor ku give up edit ala o rents ayubji ala bills and maya mo you phone sha mo ba displace ba phone ati mo chenwe mo sira ring ne maya achu ba kele ar mo sa bi shine o yaki yi ba kele ka so welo ye ba bona wa mdum lo ko ri we ke dun to bi ambo ne to she siki bo ninku siki lo bo man to si le ko bumbo ne ku bo chu te si ta bo chu e yu ye ni si ba wuri ke lo do ne mo ke fi ne ati aka ako bo one room ni o two room o ki chumbo min to fo ye ni le so welo ba se bo na ya bo maya ka jere Even chose kasi ito ka mo ay batang. Ano ba? Sa ni Spanya mo ngay mo si ilo ba ni sino si word si the word ni Mbum pi. Jo me kwa ne ma ya ka na tinya bo wala na lo kene children damba si kan je kan mo ba ne Mbum kai ko bi sine mama ha alo fa. So wala fi mu ne yam ndam na fi ni ne ika baba wa amba ku forward mo mo si min tawle si chumbo o ku bom mo ni je ini maya chumbo ndo ati ula maya ne si bon to ni maya ka ku na bo ban to ka ku fan wala rum da bo si ro ba ne wur chumbo wur bo wur wi si ati wur chuwa si mo se ne no bo mi mo ke lo ka su ba ane waki ya do la save ba la yamma ya mo ba la turngesi shaba famsu wo fi akriya su na fasu wur kwa ne wurambo maya wur kwa china ba ko ti de mo ne fa ne wonne si fa ne me na bo nyang bi to nyang bo wo fi na si mo aklo fa ba ne bi mo ja tur yamba awa fa we fa ati di fa yi we fa ati di fa yi bed wur shi ne wur ma su ya la ana would shira would maya shine would be chwala would turu su shine would fa kan yang boga do ka tun suwa turu ngirar fa bana bit turu jimbo turu fini bi ha ya ko fa bo mi school so we lo bu se ne bana bi shi woru wore we lo fienje bu ha se ne si turu person ne would tune bana mga would yo kasi we lo kwa shi wa akiri woru wore we ne bana mga would banjo ke am ka ba ne agar wunna wurku aba ke shi gimu yumo ne wura aba ke shi fa wuri mu yumo aba ke ku fune wuri ko chani yirma so wilo turku question anu wetu sene ilo gise ne ba mo wuri bari yang ne wa and wuri ka shi yuri yang sene wuri kilingan and rori biya ka wura tur an tur ban je ndi shine wuri shi sa yidbi shi ba shi wo ya bi ba wuri ka yang ne di yun wur ka sa ko ka e bone am ya osika wakaba we do school we do ayo team school abo we chimbo chibu nyorwa so nywaka ja wur ma ya Njirong ya tuli miti na di go buha bosi ika fu menye afọ wura bane lo chimbo si ana point me lana ma ya ku ya chi yuri e belo ku kisi mombo ayo ngosungwe wo ala bere visi bere
Very see, Mama. Pero we say, as a moderator, material like apart from any chance in Dinzani, Dr. Bulls, they seminar. Very much.
Be see royalties wewe sitar bavisi mama chane we mechane beri mechane Mbum wewe chayo me forum nantine recognize especially effort is we could Canada but I joined this revolution since connect Mbum land this cultural reawakening mekwasine when you left behind even at individual levels where you be caught up in this revolution and may your bone we could Canada to play a leading role in the revolution Timbolor more than the minute Shina Famega maybe English table to church gender, the reality of gender equity among the Mbum, the case of the Maya. As a puzzle, when I got this topic, I was wondering why traditional safeguards that were placed on the Maya, the institution of the Maya, such as not to get married, or not to get married as we understand marriage, or not to leave the palace vicinity and move so freely, to protect them from being placed under undue authority from any man, today becomes a problem. You know, I was puzzling over this, and I'm saying these things that we are talking about that might have initiated this discussion, that Maya complaining of neglect, that they are complaining that their needs are not met, is an offshoot of the very fact that tradition, our ancestors, imposed some of these safeguards on them so that nobody exercises authority over them, so that they remain the authority that they are and remain in authority. For instance, the question of marriage, which is one of the things, of course. When a woman gets married, normally her authority is relinquished to the husband. If our tradition came to say Maya should not get married as ordinary women, it is to say that no man should exercise authority over her, because the responsibility shoved on her by tradition does not warrant her to be tossed about by anybody, does not require that somebody orders her around. And so those safeguards, those protective norms that were put in place by our tradition, by our ancestors, why should it become a problem today that the very people who were being protected are complaining about? This is the puzzle I've had. And the bigger question is even, who is responsible for the complaints? Is it the Mayas themselves for having forgotten their responsibility, or the funds have forgotten their responsibilities towards the Maya, or is it the elite that have forgotten that they owe this institution a responsibility? Of course, when you read around the interaction between Western culture and our culture, you will see that Western scholars are some of those who insulted us, to put it bluntly, who insulted us for treating women very badly. They used some of the proverbs that existed in some of our traditional settings, like there is this proverb in Bakosi land which says that the hen knows that day has come, but it watches the mouth of the cock. You know, the hen knows before, the hen never crows. That does not mean that it does not know that day has come. It sees it, it knows very well that day has come, but does not take an initiative, will wait for the cock to announce that day has come. This goes back to the question of gender roles that Dr. Nji announced at the beginning of this discussion. That it is the role of the hen, of the cock, to announce daybreak, to announce dawn, not the hen. And that is respected as such. But these scholars also revealed some disturbing issues about our culture and our traditions, which were true in certain settings. They say in some settings, women were treated so badly that they were referred to with derogatory terms like, you are just a woman. The place of the woman is only in bed. Women are devils. Women are like children. Women don't inherit property because they are property themselves. Women are cursed. All women are liars. Women are always wrong, and all of that. These could be true in other contexts. But when you come back to our traditional setting, I mean the Mbum, you see the woman persistently being conspicuous in leadership and in royalty, right from the very beginning of the Mbum ethnic origin. If you go back to Nganha, which is the closest that we traced our history to, you see that our history begins around this young virgin. Virgin, that's a girl, a small girl, who insists that she must see a dreaded masquerade, which was a male exclusive masquerade. Women were not allowed to see, something like the Njirong that we know back home. This masquerade comes out and this young virgin says, I must see this masquerade. This thing that they say women don't see, I must see it. And insist, and insist, and they say, no, you can't see it. And she insists and hides somewhere and sees the masquerade. And is picked up by one of those following the masquerade. And because she saw the masquerade, she is exiled from Nganha. And she goes into the forest and starts wandering in the forest. And a passerby picks her up and takes her to Banyo Palace, where she lives and grows and becomes extremely powerful. She is said to have been the mother of the Tikars. That is why all Tikar groups, whether it is Bamileke, whether it is Mbum, whether it is So, whether it is whichever group you think about, have this strong respect for the woman. And of course, places the woman in royalty. There is no leadership without the central position of the woman. Even at that, you hear the role of this strong woman in our history, the Wute, who is said to have been the one from whom the founder of Ngu, Mangu, in Mbumland descended. That again shows a woman in leadership, which means that our history has evidence that the woman has always been an authority in authority.
Dr. Bulda, just a warning on the time.
Thank you very much. And that tradition had protected this. And so the institution of the Maya can be understood from this background.
Give him more
and
time.
it's established very clearly.
No, he can
And
come back.
that the Maya plays a central role, a very central role in the stabilizing the village. Apart from advising the fund, she defends the interest of women in the fund. She trains the king's wives. She serves as liaison for the women, in the fund within the royal circle. She checks the absolutism of the fund. She serves as regent. Of course, we've had examples of women or Mayas acting as regents in Du and even in Bot, of course. She coordinates and oversees the disappearance rituals of the fund. She ensures the respect of succession, and coronation rituals by kingmakers. She initiates the new fund into the secrets of the palaces. It is the Maya that does this. To ensure that the royal decisions took into consideration the plight of the children, she makes sure that she always talks to the fund on behalf of the children too. She plays supervisory role.
Dr. Buja, the reason I'm talking about time, we're on this new medium of internet connections. We would want to reach all our speakers first to speak, and we'll have time at the end to add more substance to it. But in the interest of hearing our Mayas and Homeland, so that if we have internet connection issues, they would have already spoken. I would like to. First, we'll let them speak, and then we'll come back and there'll be Q&A sessions. Yeah. Is that okay?
Let me just round up here to say that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Just to say that the quest for equity by our Maya is a fair one. and must be viewed within the context that they have a role that does not contest with the role of the fund. Because if it is viewed from the perspective of what the fund does, they must do also, or what is given to the fund must be given to them, it would be announcing a dispensation of competition. But what we are saying very clearly is that the MAYAAS have a right to fair treatment. They have a right to request for fairness and equity. They have, in fact, to be treated with dignity and authorities that they are, and that must be done within the context set by tradition and not within the new dispensation of equality
Thank you very
as
much.
understood. Thank you.
Very well, thank you very much. Just as a bit of housekeeping rules, I just want to encourage everybody, if you have a comment or a question as the speakers are speaking, please type them in the comment box, because we are going to have a Q&A session at the end, or write it down, and when we get towards the end, you can put your hand up if you want to ask the question yourself. But I think in the interest of time, it will be wonderful if people can put their questions or comments in the comment box, chat. And then that way, when we get to the end, we can read those questions and then have all discussion points. So thank you very much. Dr. Bude, and now we'll go to Maya. Maya, what were you able to unmute your right now? Will you unmute? Unmute so that you can speak. The Maya of Ndu, I see you very well.
Mangiri ashani Dr. Buza ashani biwashiyo the speakers washiyo minda ampisi nina ne yongsu bisi ala ne ame maya kuya to kuya ne ki fa ya mi council a yongsu bisi ambo si atati mi zeli nina ne kwa sine mi kulo bila nzubu me ambo maya mi ngarumala ambo yitu Maya mingarumi sungsi ambo wure biku kisiba mushar mindumo imimbe mwa ayong supiana shino kwa sa haturan ba job shike farke wolo yene umte ba recognize ine njingwe turar baka ombale Maya ka Maya haba an assistant to the phone she bade yo o Maya onfo yene ka. So sika selambo topic lane gender equality in Mbum, the case study of Maya ata Maya kiba onfu yenika asalaba jenne bu goryo shine wimbome in general okilo lor fu binji ha alulu aka abawa a ndi mo olo lor fu binji alulu a faye menwa otura faye menwa ke dumwa te go ba able and start bi yeni jo ngongi kupsi wakasi shwe ayene okilo garba mumu shine biring yuka angombome in general okilo lorba mu shine kutu mushar so oka lor mu shi mushana ma siyi idunwa ibi miss primary school miss secondary school to high school and to university ija bed angombom in general Maya loba ika do primary school do secondary school, do high school. At this level, bolo kuning job in general. Bia laa olo lesi ambo Maya. E baba mi bom turbi agiye nitne biaba jayi dori Maya kutomzo. Jo Maya lo duma wa idniran school needs. The school needs. Tebo ba ebo la riet wa si do ba shu Maya be manta shu tori bench je angombo me jobi shi konne mo chipsi yeka o ne bazaje ishu me mabi ataye ne wa ye ne ka e ba si ne si ka giwa si fa Maya school needs tebo do ye ne wa ye ne fo ba ngwe ayang si fa le simbo na ka jo Maya yo minawa e ka te rin wa ka ngong si ni kup si yo igi ke ka sa bi so Maya lo do school I do primary school do secondary school do me advanced level I ba at this level si mo ogi yi the cleansing exercise ango mbo mambo kilo ba jobi minta na kilo bong ne shuba mo shine I bi ring bang ro ka ibo gizero minto yeni I ba si no mi fi sho su si we afur kumbi Maya ke turiyo mo shi ja yi ka Dusumbu pa wolo basi inine ibi jarambu bangro jo obo ine ibi koni obi pa yi pen pa yi she pa yi yo pa yi bu mo jejeje Maya lo dule sinyo shuba buha ye ni wa ye ne ka shine bingo si inina Maya ka te ba mo shido ato HND ato degree masters ka ni ka ba do ba mare na self iba maridi ika maridi ibi ba ebola ken so to ka jobi shine bi toribu bongbong fa shi yu yeni chi ata I jai ka so me kulo wimbome ala ne ango mbome sikitin ne basi mama ka mangfu ka maya ka mangwang sikitiri ne wo dungwa alle tuningwa ye ni wa yeni to bo jasi jo we shwe ngong si kupsi Maya ka bane bi kushuba minto ke dungwa ka di igi ke ka sabi if bane do represent for kadzamo igi ke ka represent ibane sunga bobula am za binje lang lang bagu umgogu wi igi ke ka di ambo mgogu ne bimo shine otonti ne culture wi bobe olo tu Maya adzamo Maya na turan ba reasonable enough ring you shine shila to binje table la you shine ibi kirpongwe ba yeni ibi ne mawin to wi ibi ne mgogu ka ne mgwagu deno gi fong men to wi mbome sikirgi tem mgwagu shi mgwagu la to ba gi Maya mgwagu ka ba gi Maya wi chim Maya ne chim bongbong te Maya ku ne ndi bongbong do ku domze njolo ma sa Maya ne mgogu iba yang singogu ba maririo Maya shukumza bagu ba agi Maya oni bagu ba agi Maya njoke wotura ba minaka futsa o manza shingwa si ye ni nas mama ne mama ogi sa bonka de mama kup senior de bo ye ne wa ye ne njo wa yu ne mama ka ye ne wa turan ba to respect to fatu ne wa si ka hun le ba min ka ne ibi shwa gi tatawi dul le ba mi zambang royo mama bi ko ba ne dia na shine kwa sene turan no ba mbu jibabu ye ne wa ka so mesela ne wimbo me angong zisi ha si kitiri ye ne mama wo do school ye ne te o la lisa bo ba ye ne kiri gine te support ka ava ne mama wi ke ba ne ma ya yu ye ne on ka ande ki ba wa ka jo Maya ke ba mung fo cholo sho me mbo gare so Maya lo ba ne tsung fo support ka ava ne ning fo bi ko fa Maya te Maya fa o tu kun tomza you nem fo lo ku support Maya be tu ba le mi level mo ambo from advanced level to HND and degree you know but difficult because mi fi ha Maya bi nindap mi fi ha Maya bi need a bu si mo ji nsu wana wewe oka ma sabale fofamza idule lumni ayong sibisi ar kwa sa sibia muki kwa sa ina di wi lor Maya ambo wonna te wo shu di ayong sa Maya ni rong ni jo ro yam tur meeting suram lo di mbo idi bumbo ija wurto ichip sa Maya shino kare jo lo kare yuwa wudi si wa Maya o yuwa ango bumna chi Maya show do school si lo kwa sa boy yap education chibo wi ne o shur shuyeni gingi si fi si Maya ke ba Maya jer gi nji jabri show sa le binja la ka yar she shi yu jabri ka ido ban fi mo o wi bomi mingo bomna si ku chwe ne wa yu Maya yan ne nyori I fi si si ya si lo ma si zutu idu yar bu mo faje si ku ke chebe ala ne mi minimwe jayu le ba ku fo ti Maya da ba fi si akele masale wo wa lang abodor ha la ba me to na Maya le da me to see a gypsy gorfa babane si ga jabubi anje so sine division so mi lemsi ke chipo mi ye bale alulu very si
Very si mama. Very si me yong si se. Me kwa ne si ne si bi me time for me get Edison. Mbaya yika time for me when you online ah.
Very mawanto mamanjo. Time for me you mean that.
Okay. Anyway, 5 to 6 minutes. Very well.
Yar me chani tata Njirong. Time for me you mean that. Achani mama wiwewe. You mean that. Achani tua lang time for me di manjong. Dr. Raymond Budi. Achani moderators. He oyo she the program. Alane ayu bonbong me batmu technical issues and connect me as Zoom. But finally I resolve it. Ava koni me usone biwari kontomi. Oko sisu ni fongwe ambo maya emento windu abalana. Mitul gor anlaka me kwa shine labilo bangi nyorwe. In other words, I want to greet everybody here, starting with His Royal Highness His Majesty, the Fount of Tong, who honors us with his presence, and all the Mayas from Bumland who are present and who have already presented. I am Tam for me, Nge Edison Tamfu, responding from Yaoundé. I think the debate is started well, and we will continue in this footing. I do not have much to say now, but I think as the debate unfolds, you will get more from me. Thank you very much.
Very well, sit down for me. Very well. I'm going to yield and feedback. That is great. As I said earlier, this is just the opening, and we hope that with questions and comments and feedback from the audience, we're going to open up at the end. So you should have some more time to speak later. At this point, I would like to call on Mayu Tanyi Mbianyo. Mawinto Wekiti Ilzumbomake Vibongbong. Welcome you in both English and in Limbum. So the ayos ine manikade Allah.
Me abadi mzimbo mchat mku jab zimbo mana jab se njadi memfukula at the age of 3. I could be kutia ukoka. So may you ambo beauty land zimbo bonbon yam ken shimine ntikir bong mene ben mku jabi aka la membe jab wa abadi mku jab in public so me lo tata chimecha niwa we mama we show you on the forum. I chat with all my heart. I join everyone to greet you, to salute you and the nobility and the royalty that you bring to this debate. I say thank you very much. Okay, my winter about you mini. Make it about winter my manfe ndua chiftani mbianyo Clarkson. Ikiba second class chief of Chang village in my new subdivision. So that's why they're calling me a winter, and I own up. Actually, in their language, they call me Goremfo. That's the chief's, the fond's wife, which is winter in our own language. Okay, Lamone, wherever you go to, where your navel was buried, you never forget it. That is why I am back here on the Mbum issues, because I am a bona fide Mbum woman and proud to be. When that said, when I was asked to join this August panel and to talk about the Mayas, it took my mind back a long time ago, because our late mother, Munken Cecilia, was brought up in the Binka Palace by a Maya, you know, when she was relating her life to us. She said, guess what? Don't look at me like that. I am royalty. My auntie was a Ya in the Binka Palace. And so I grew up with great princesses like Mommy Irene B. For that, some of us still consider ourselves, even though we are like the 10th generation royalty, we still consider ourselves royalty. And so I stand here for the fact that royalty, those royal women, like my grandmom who brought up my mom, should be given the dignity they deserve. I say that for 3 good reasons, and most of those reasons coincide with what I am hearing here from the men too. The women have proven to us, Berry, we, Mama, we, that they are relevant, that what they have to do is not questionable as far as relevance is concerned. Now, the question I hear again is, are they equipped to effectively play the role that is theirs? Have we equipped our Mayas to play the role effectively, even as time passes? If yesterday the role was just 1 or 2 activities, as time goes on, and as the world evolves, and we need to evolve with the evolving times, are we equipping our Mayas to continue to play that relevant role that is theirs in the preservation of our cultural heritage? I am glad, because we are not going into the intricacies of the inner palace. We are not fit to do that, and we concede that that is left for the funds and the Mayas to know what happens in there. But when they come out to the public, for the scrutiny of the public, how do these Mayas present themselves to the world? And I think the topic is very relevant there. So to cut a long story short, I am hearing, Madam Moderator, that sometimes most of the Mayas don't even know what that role is. They are enthroned. They are the admiration of all of the women. And when the lights go off, what next? They don't have the faintest ideas. Sometimes they are still young children who don't even know how to read and write. So I know questions are going to be coming, and we'll be talking some more. But at this stage, I hear it said very loudly. The roles of the Mayas have got to evolve with the evolving times. Let us remember that the only constant thing on earth is change. Relevant, realistic, realizable change. So that they continue to be relevant, so that they are better equipped, not only for the present, but for the future of our Mbum land. I will yield here, Madam Moderator, and would wait again for more wonderful ideas as I hear them coming in. I'm very grateful to be a part of this great team. I'm humbled, and I thank you.
Very so, my winter princess of Binka. We get to royal blood where it doesn't matter how many generations. I still claim to be a princess of Low Palace. Maybe 10, 20 generations away, but that's another story for another day. Very so, but I said that this wasn't a speech making for me, the moderator, but I wanted to just tag along to something that Mayu said about how the Mayas were the admiration of all Mbum girls when they are initially crowned. One of my smalls from GHS Campbell, whom shall remain nameless, recently confided to me that whenever she went to a vivo, all she wanted to do as a little child was to run and sit in that camera. When she saw those little Mayas crowned, she would be crying to her mother that make on a Maya, to the extent that her mother said, make it Lord, what do I have Maya. So it goes without saying, as Ma Winter has said, that as the discourse started, whether it's from the men, from the women, those who admire our culture, whatever, I think one constant truth is that we recognize the role of our Mayas. We want that role to continue. And I think on their part, they've been playing their roles, and we just want to figure out how we support them and empower them, as Ma Winter said, to continue in that role. I just wanted to interject there because I thought that was a funny thing that she brought up about how the Mayas were the admiration of all Mbum girls. At this point, me do me time for me the Manjong, the Oracle, my own very time for me from Bongabi, New England. So we are here in Massachusetts. Time for me. We're treated to.
Yeah, very easy. Your Royal Majesty, the fount of Njirong, the Royal Majesty's eminent represented Mayas here, title holders in the House, on the panel, and in the House as audience. Everybody who is here to participate, listen, and learn, and teach. I appreciate this opportunity to be a participant in this discussion. Listening to what the previous speakers have said, it looks like my job has been made easy by the previous speakers. I think the Maya of Ngaru got back, nailed me to the fact that what the Mayas presently lack or are asking for is support in the main. And I appreciate my co-panelists on my side, Dr. Budi, who tried to bring in the history of all this, which allows me to be able to say it's a matter of going back to history to see what exactly it was that was expected of the Maya and what it is that has probably been missing as a result of this history not being passed down, maybe in recorded form. So it's not only the history of the Maya, it is even our own history as Wimbo people. It's been oral. And then as time goes on, the new teachers either are not well equipped to pass that on, or they have some lapses in what they are passing on, and then results into some of the lapses that we have. I think His Royal Majesty here present will attest to the fact that there is no royal school where they graduate to become fonts. So sometimes learn on the job, just like the Mayas are expected to learn on the job, and the opportunities that provide themselves for learning on the job do matter in terms of what the learners learn as on the job. So I think what I'm trying, are you hearing me?
Yes,
Yes,
we are hearing you.
loud
and clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm struggling here to state is that much of what we are talking of probably is lost in history. And it will be our collective job that of the Mayas, that of the funds, that of those of us interested citizens, to dig into that history, to come out with what exactly was the role of the Maya from recorded history and what has been lost with time, and to see how we can reinstitute that, revamp that, and bring that update, because there have been changes along the way. Our society began when it was all simple. When Dr. Ndi was introducing the matter, he seemed to have said that men were kind of patriarchal society, men more important. I think historically, I think the women were probably more important. Yeah, the men were there as a standing army in case there was an invasion. Absent an invasion, people could live their lives, die without an invasion, but the women were always there to provide for the family, because they were the farmers, they were the ones that did the farming, they produced the food, because like I said, life at that time was simple. It was a matter of eating to survive, and then women provided for that. And then if there was an invasion, then the men would defend the village against that invasion. Then, like I said, some of the men did die without ever protecting the village against any invasion, because there was no invasion. But the women were constantly always there, providing the food to keep the family going. So that made the women even much more important than the men, to be honest. And I think the Mbum people also believe that in our believing in the mystics, including witchcraft, for example, it is understood that the women can do their thing witchcraft-wise without a man. But for the men to be able to do their witchcraft thing, they will need a woman. So in a sense, the woman was very, very important, cardinal in a way. Yeah, but that notwithstanding, getting down to, I appreciate the fact that the Mayas this far did make it known that it is not equality they are asking for, as it is equity. And equity has to do with fairness. And fairness has to do with what is their due, and if that due is being provided. And then I am saying that if we go back to history and look in there, we will find what that due might have been. And then to see whether that due is being given to them, and if that due has been updated in terms of present day reality. And by present day reality, I am saying, yeah, the funds go to school, do Mayas go to school? And if they do, who is responsible for that schooling? I think I did get it here that the mention of the fund, yeah, who probably will see the Maya as his sister, kind of, and take care of her. But in terms of the arrangement of the palace, I thought, well, there are places where the Shinto is probably supposed to be the manager of the palace. So while we can put the responsibility on the fund, we can say there is a palace arrangement that is supposed to even take care of the fund regarding his own schooling, if at all. And probably it is that arrangement that is supposed to take care of the Maya with regards to her own schooling. And the question is, are we doing that in terms of our updated society vis-a-vis the fund and vis-a-vis the Mayas? If not, then we probably need to go back to examining that and making sure that that is being done. Yeah, I did appreciate the fact that the Maya of Ngarum, of course, took us through all of the support that they need, that of advice. Yeah, usually when the Maya, in some instances, probably are left to their own mother as the principal advisor, and whose understanding of the role of the Maya may be limited because she's might be a winter, or if she's coming from what we will call the outer court of the palace, she probably wouldn't be a winter, but she's the one that the Maya lives with, because they're usually younger when they're given the responsibility of Maya, and so they're living with their mother from the start, and that mother is the one that is providing her with the initial advice. But if the arrangement in the palace is made in such a way that when one becomes a Maya, they too, maybe like the fawn, not exactly like the fawn, have an assignment just like was requested, where they will be, and somebody or a group of persons are responsible for bringing her up to speed as to her responsibility as Maya. Then some of the issue of the Mayas thinking for themselves what their role should be and how to carry themselves around will not be, because those people will be there providing the guidance and all of that to ensure that they are well brought up to meet the expectations of life in a way that they could become honorable Mayas instead of Mayas that go around with a lot of questions due to having not been given the guidance that allows for them to grow up in a particular way as to be respected, responsible persons of the village. We here are saying that when it comes down to saying that history is where we can go to look for where things went wrong, that the society became more complex, and then that complexity was not translated in the lives of the Maya. We can look at examples of Mayas that we can say that were successful in some ways. I think some of us growing up, spending the day of the CNU, there was a very powerful Maya. I think her name was MAYAAS, I think. She was CNU section president for Kambe division, later on Donga Mantum, for quite some time. So she must have been a powerful Maya to keep that position for all of the time that she kept it. And then Maya from Nu is here, and if you look at the history of Nu, there will be the Maya in the reign of Von Rambo. Yeah, she was powerful to have held that kingdom, that fondom, intact during the absence of Von Rambo, when Von Rambo, well, some of the history says he was taken into exile, I think in Banyong. For all of that time, I think the Maya was in charge, because that's part of their responsibility to keep the throne occupied when the Fon is not. And then I think still in Nu, we all have heard of the powerful princes, including Colonel Sonde, that was the son of a Maya. Yeah, I remember, or we remember. And I think the late Colonel Sunday had a very powerful sister too. I think history has it that his sister was the first Mbum woman to receive a grade 3 certificate as a teacher. So that's an example there to go with. And I think we have examples of in a Maya of Kambe, whose children turned out to be successful, and a couple of them are presently in the United States. So what I'm saying is these are some examples that that we can look at. If we look at those examples by going into how they lived their lives as to have become successful, maybe through their children or through the lives they lived when there was a vacancy, as in the case of von Rambo of Ndu, then we may find something there that we can put together as a package for today's Mayas in terms of steeping them in the life that a Maya historically was supposed to be, and then upgrading that or updating that to meet present day realities which have to do with modern day education, modern day expectations in terms of the needs of the Maya, as have to do with the children that that they have. Well, I don't know about their marrying as that of the having the Nyamdu as historically has been, in a way that that Nyamdu, of course, is a some responsible person by the judgment of the palace, as will be able to help them maybe in the way the examples that we have given were able to do for their own children. Yeah, with His Royal Majesty here, I think that the Maya that sparked of this thing, I want to say that if we look at her own life too, there must be something Maya in her that that made her to become this powerful thinker and speaker, to have generated this discussion that that we are having. Maybe if we go there and we dig up, we may find that there is something historical that she was able to work on and make herself at least the powerful thinker that she is, to have generated this discussion that seems not to be controlling us left and right, to see what it is that we can do to make the lives of our Maya much worthwhile across the board than it presently does exist. Well, I will yield back some of my time and then wait for question time. Thank you all very much.
Time for me. Barry was here. I think there's a reason why we always keep you at the end to summarize. And I think you definitely do live up to your name. I just want to thank, before before our interlude. But I know that so I want to put in my piece before I do that. I think when we started, we had one goal. We said that this was an opportunity for us to learn firsthand from our Mayas. And we also said that this was not structured as a debate where you had the other people being adversaries to the Mayas, because this is their reality. They live this life. We cannot question that. We can only embrace it and try to understand, either from a historical perspective or the changing times, or the growth of the Mbum society, or what we've borrowed or from other cultures, how we can make their lives different. I think this first part of the discussion has definitely lived up to that ideal that we set for ourselves. We have heard from the MAYAAS, and I don't think anybody can add anything to what they've said. They've clearly stated really what their realities are. And that doesn't deviate very much from what their cultural roles have been, and it doesn't deviate very much from what the panelists on the other side, in terms of Dr. Bulde, Time for Me, and everybody else who has said. I think what is left for us now is to go back, as the historians on our panel have said, what was their role? What was our responsibility? Not just the fund's responsibilities. What was our responsibility as citizens of a particular fundum? What is the palace structure, as Time for Me has alluded to, that made sure that the MAYAAS are taken care of? Who has been derelict in their responsibilities to make sure that we don't uphold that part? And again, in light of the realities of today with increasing needs, what can we do to move the needle from that reality? Is our culture amenable to change? Can we change it to incorporate changes that would make the lives of our MAYAAS more livable and with the dignity that Mayu has articulated? And I personally, I think that this has to be across of Mbum land. It cannot be left to individual funds or individual fundums or villages, because we know that our villages are different in terms of sizes, people, populations, needs, and what have you. And I think for us to really impact the lives of our MAYAAS in a more holistic manner, we need to look at changes that we can implement across the board and not maybe leave it subjected to villages where some of them may not just have the need. Before I hand over to His Royal Highness, I just want to say that typically I speak a lot, and this has been a very kind of emotional session for me, listening to the MAYAAS speak. And I haven't had to be restrained to put in my 2 cents, because I haven't had a need to put in my 2 cents. And so with that, I just want to thank all the speakers. I want to thank all our MAYAAS. I want to thank all the panelists who've brought on the history and the fact that we are all in agreement. And I definitely believe that one of the goals of this session is going to be realized, because I have not heard anybody say anything that is contrary to what the MAYAAS have articulated this morning. So with that, I'm going to hand over the mic to Tata.
Before Tata speaks, please, let me just say that since the Reverend Koyo was coordinating the MAYAAS in Du,
thank you very much
for him to speak before Tata speaks, because he may bring in certain things that Tata may be able to respond to. I know that I have my own time to speak, but I just wish that Reverend Koyo speaks.
And for me, very well. Very well. Yeah, that's a great idea. Very well. And actually, maybe I should add that any Maya more you may forum Shibata de Tessica open up a Maya kule indicating Jose and whether Maya mo obagia joinka Reverend Koyo temku kino wa temku open up again ku Jobson wa Maya mo agia join le kabani Maya mo a join it will recognize from ye then some of a man's no okata de any Maya you may forum
very well see Madam Moderator Mechani way she win dabi she biba fa kwa MAYAAS kundum kwa Maya mingarum you know what
Reverend Maji Jim Sabani Smoke other towns say Moduala Yaounde way.
Okay, as far as I know,
okay.
As far as I know, none has. I have connected to none beyond the two.
All right, better say.
I will appreciate if I'm given an opportunity to to bring in some compliment to the contributions of the two Maya before His Royal Highness speaks.
Please go ahead. We'll take the floor.
Thank you very much. Alaren meke chani wewe, achani Maya we, mama we sayo babi, jejeje, chi ayungams hangombom, atur fi, atur nti indulaha. Mi lazim fingal bara. As I had an opportunity to interact with the two Mayas from Garum and from Ndu in preparation for this discussion, there were some of the issues they shared that I quickly captioned the hidden cry of the Mayas in Mbumland. And if you listen to the presentation of the Maya of Garum and that of Ndu, you would notice that one of the things that stands out is that they are crowned alongside the fawns when they are very young. And when they reach the mature age, there is that cleansing rite that is done and they're sent out of the palace. Now, which implies that in the full reign of a fawn, his total period of reign, many Mayas can be crowned alongside. Now, one central thing that remains a concern is that when they are sent out at that time of the palace, they are relocated. And of course, tradition has said that they are not given a husband. So they are made vulnerable, they become vulnerable. And it's at that time that since the people who have been given the freedom to advise them are the unmarried, we call them Ngogus. And you know, one of the outstanding characteristics of Ngogus is that most of them are usually irresponsible. And people who are most often more responsible, who could stand a better opportunity to advise our Mayas, would have been the married, who are seasoned, you know, in marriage life. But then the married ones are not, the Ngwagus are not permitted to come close to the Maya. They instead run away from them. So at some point, the Maya themselves feel lonely and abandoned. And this is what I describe as some of the hidden cries. They feel lonely and abandoned. Okay, they are sent out of the palace. The rightful Ngogus who are rightfully supposed to advise them, they are not equipped to know how to offer so that they can be guided. Their own mothers do their little best as they grew up with them. Now, there is the other aspect of it. When they are sent out of the palace, they are made vulnerable. They are sexually active. And so any man can come. If a Nyamdu comes and the Maya can control her sexual urges and stay with one Nyamdu, good and fine. But then there is no compelling mechanism to ensure that the man is responsible. And so as many children as are delivered, they claim they are the children of the palace. If at some point the parent takes pity on the Nyamdu, they can bless him with one of their sons. And the rest remains as children of the palace. Question follows, who takes care of those children? Who takes care of those children? So the whole weight comes on the Maya, who most of them are not educated, they don't have a job, and they just struggle to make ends meet. That is another element. Now, the other aspect is the issue of marriage. We have been teaching and saying, no, this thing, we are sending the Mayas out of the palace, and that any Nyamdu come along is not the best. Now, in the recent Funds Union conference that held, the issue was raised there, and it would appear our fathers readily say, okay, we can let you get married. That sounds good, but to me, there is a degree of running away from responsibility. I say that with respect to our fathers. But because to readily say, let them get married and not check how to go about that marriage. When in that marriage, she will not be treated like any other woman. She delivers the children, and if finally she dies, she is brought to be buried in the palace. Now the children are the children of the palace still. So you realize that, you know, the weight of responsibility on the Nyamdu is still light. That is the other element. The other element of it is, even if there is an open room for the Mayas to get married, not all the Mayas may finally actually get married, because some of them might have outlived the age of marriage. And as the Maya of Garum raised a concern, let there be a house built in the palace to locate them, so that if there is no marriage, they can come back and stay and have a place that they belong. If they can get married and the marriage is good, that they can stay. Some get married and finally there are issues that they have to come back. So when the Maya comes back, where does she go to? Those are some of the issues that we need to actually look at, so that what I describe as the hidden cries of the Mayas could be hearkened to, because sometimes they cry and nobody sees their tears. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator.
Yeah, Barry was Reverend. I also will say, and time for me, Barry again. I'm over the Reverend Manza Dina, because he brings up a lot of very important and impactful points that we need to take into account in addition to what the Mayas have already articulated. Bani si nina kadiba ni Maya mo aba join ka bani si famans ni tata Fonganjo what the
All right, Bere Mangiri. Maya Ngarum Ndu Michaduyo. Bere via DC come from Manjong, a Dr. Budi. Ba Reverend Koyo, Kwaviala Bumo, you sound but very reasonable after some historical insight into the institution of the Maya and Siagachi or the perspective Shimbayo on Siagaki followed by the topic gender equity. Maya or you ban or complain in the program or get it on fairly like you bad the challenges she know the through. And you bad collective failure on the part of the women people. You give back if you organ Maya celebration kiloba. Everybody is happy. And that will last for about a month. After that, that is it. No, we do. Nobody thinks about the fund. Who has no job. Nobody thinks about the Maya. They are allowed to be on their own. But they are supposed to be our leaders. So me go any discussion na ke Maya Njirong and Boba and JK. You buy a way forward. There should be a way forward. How we can work to make this thing better, to make these women, these Mayas live a better life. You see, I try to understand the Maya, you an office in the palace. That was there is a formal domain can be a decision on Lombo. Mangiri embrace a question, was that all they could do? Make what Maya complain about but throw domain be other focus on the issue of Maya and the marriage, which to me was not correct. Only see the main thing, the challenges that the Maya on a daily basis in the Mbum community. That should be our focus. Because what should the Mbum people do to alleviate the life of the Maya? Because if a Maya lives well, if we improve the Maya's lifestyle, the Maya will be responsible, husband or no husband. That's the fact. So if you are me, you say about let the women people. My not be able to expecting to about take care of Maya. That is an individual. And then moreover, you have good people and bad people. You could have a very stingy fund who want to eat everything. You could have a fund that would like to share with the Maya. So you should suggestion or proposal. How do we improve the office of the Maya so that they can live a decently good life. That boils down to what? Empowerment. As women people. Madam are they equipped? Yes, we can equip them. We equip them by empowering them so that they can live on their own. Economic empowerment, you key. How do we support them? So they can own a business. They can own a farm. And be able to live their lives. How do we support them? So they can empower themselves educationally. You may show a Maya who is well educated, well trained, is going to be able to teach them. Do not expose ourselves. It is just because they are uninformed, or just because they were living a type of irresponsible life. But we know that someone who has been empowered educationally should be able to sustain a life. So the feeling, at the end of all these discussions, our proposals would be to empower these Mayas economically, to empower them educationally, to empower them financially as well. There's a way the community can do this. She explained the empowerment. They can do it. No community instead of a community Maya 1 or 2 hectares, 2 or 3 hectares. The Maya will be able to live from that farm. So the bottom line, from my own perspective, is a collective failure, because the Maya is not the responsibility of the farm, it's the responsibility of the community. So if the office of the Maya has not been successful, then we, as Mbum people, we have failed to do our job. Was that the job? I mean, the Maya is, how do we call it? A servant, public servant for our people. Just like the phone is a servant. So the only thing that we as a people, we as Mbum people can make these people to be functional the way we want is to support them. Sometimes I ask myself, how many of us elite, when you go back to your communities, how many of you stop by your palaces to greet the phone? How many of you send even a credit of 200 francs to the phone so that he can make a call? How many of you stop by the house of the Maya to support them with a tablet of savon, or just to encourage them morally, like the Maya of Mbum was saying, moral support, advice? So there's a lot in this that we have to do, not just to these Mayas, because sometimes even some of our funds become so irresponsible. The irresponsibility comes from the fact that they don't have. So when they move around and see the way other funds are living, they try to do things that they ought not to have done.
Yeah.
Maybe they illegally tax their people. By illegally taxing their people, they go, okay, take for instance, one who has lived in Bamenda, sees that for Nangwafo or the Fonompe, when somebody gets a piece of land, they ask for, you want to build, they say, you have to go to the phone of Mancon and give what? A bundle of zinc. He's living from all of that. He's living he's in a cosmopolitan city. And then some phone from Mbum goes back and tries to, he forgets that he's from a rural community and tries to introduce that because he wants to live that, like that other man in his own phone. But if we were supportive, how do we empower our public servants? Whether you are a phone, you are a public servant. Whether you are a Maya, you are a public servant. You never went to any school to become phone, like Tamfomin Njirong was saying. All these things is on-the-job training. But when people crown you, celebrate you for 1 month, and they disappear, only come back to celebrate you, to celebrate the next phone. When you are gone, they come back and fix the palace for the new phone. And then everybody goes away after that, after about a month. And then they come back again to celebrate the next new phone. So let's do it in a way that, like the Maya Mbum was saying, because when they get to maturity, because the throne is something that has to be pure. That's why they have to step aside from the throne. Because of issue of menstruation and honor, they cannot allow them. You see, when they get to maturity and they want them to be, not to continue to sit on the throne or be inside the palace, what should the community do? Don't you think that's the time to build, for the community to build a decent home, equip it for the Maya, set up a small business for the Maya? So there is a lot that we can learn from this discourse. Just too much that we can talk. So to me, it's not the issue of equity. It's the issue of the hidden cry, like Reverend Koyo was saying. But that's something which is fixable. We can fix this. Like the people. Better.
Yeah.
Very tata. For me, I try to respond to that. But me kwani siya replicated Peter Mfawe siya an interlude. Do we have any guests?
Right. So we were supposed to have Tuko, who is not available, and our little daughter, Jato Sonita, is receiving a trophy right now back home for one of the Central African trophies or so for what she's doing. She's doing just a great job. I'm not making any publicity anyways. And then Shaw, so far, I think we are on the right track. I do appreciate all the speakers, and I think Mangiri can comfortably continue with the question and answer session. Thereafter, we'll definitely have everybody put hands on gloves so that we see what kind of suggestions we come up with. And of course, we will try to see how this can be implemented. There should be a result that will come from the community, as I have learned. Mangiri, over to you.